Hi, I'm Michelle Tompkins, your wellness manager, and I'm here today to talk about a wellness connection class with Dr. Jonathan Scalone. Welcome to Shell Point.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So your presentation on April 10th, it's called Consider the Conversation. What conversation are we considering? Tell me about that.
The conversation with the people that you care about what you want when you reach the stage of end of life, which we all will. Today, I think there are two kinds of deaths. One, the very quick, the very unexpected death that none of us can plan for. The tragedy of a plane crash, the tragedy of a car accident, the heart attack, the aneurysm. But most of us today, I think, will die of chronic diseases where we've been treated and we can treat people today for a long term of time. Well, what happens when we get to that end of life? Can we plan a little bit more specifically about where we want to be, who we want present, if we want somebody to pray with us, if we want somebody to sit vigil with us? There's a lot more details in Consider the Conversation than perhaps when some of us, like we did, filled out our documents with our lawyers. Five Wishes that augments what we filled out with our lawyers, but in very specific human details.
And you're right. These are touchy conversations
Very touchy.
that we all have to face at some point. I know my parents just moved to the Fort Myers area now that they're retired, and my mom says, you came back from the doctor, and she's got all this paperwork, and she just kind of shoves it aside and doesn't really want to consider the conversation or even entertain the thought of having that conversation. You mentioned in the program, I know, 5 wishes. Tell us about how our residents can benefit from learning about the 5 wishes.
5 Wishes is an advance directive. It's not per se meant to replace the ones we have filled out with many of us with our lawyers. However, it can augment it, meaning in 5 Wishes many specifics. The first wish is the person you want to be your spokesperson, and that's the person you have to go over your 5 wishes with. The second one concerns what kind of situations at end of life that we will face. There's some categories in there. It explains what being on life support means. We all know that term, but what does it mean concretely in the 21st century? Then you move into personal, spiritual, and emotional wishes, 3, 4, and 5. And as I said before, I come from a family of lawyers and judges. I've never seen these in any of the legal documents I've reviewed with other people I've cared for. Where do you want to die? Who do you want in the room? Do you want music playing? Do you want to have your hand held? Just some very specific things that I think we can, in the 21st century, think about and make choices around.
Well, you and I were speaking previously before we went on to film this about how passionate it sounds like you are about this topic. Can you share with us about your experience with Hope Healthcare?
There was a period of time where I worked in the hospitals, our local Lee Memorial System hospitals, and oftentimes what would happen is I'd be walking down the hallway and the nursing station would go, hospice man, hospice man. And what I learned that meant was they'd ask me to go into a room where there was a patient, usually in ICU, in bed, that could not speak because I had a ventilator down their throats. Sometimes you can, but most of the times you can't. And there would be 2 adult children standing on each side of the bed. One would be arguing, let's do everything. Let's replace the heart valve. Mom's only 90. She'll have a good quality of life if we replace this heart valve. And on the other side of the bed would be another adult child saying, no, she really didn't want that. She just wanted to die peacefully at this point. She's lived a good life. And oftentimes there would be a third person in the room, somebody that was like a life partner, perhaps not legally married according to the law, because if they did, they would lose some of the benefits from a previous union. That person was completely helpless in this conflict that was going on. And what they were asking me to do was see if I could get the adult children outside the room, sit down, and see if we could come to some kind of common ground on the next step for mom. And it was simply because, and again, in the 20th century, many of us didn't think about advance directives because we didn't have to. But that's how it came about, that there's got to be a better way to have these sensitive conversations before we're in crisis mode.
Thank you so much for being here with me to share with
You're
our
welcome.
residents about Consider the Conversation. If you would like to attend Dr. Jonathan Scalone's presentation from Hope Healthcare, please sign up at your service desk. It is April 10th at 10:30 a.m. in the Grand Cypress Room. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Michelle.